So this is the Tiderace Vortex, which is Tiderace's first foray into plastic boats. It's a single layer rotor moulded design. And it's designed, as Tiderace put it, to play at the sea. So it's very much a play sea kayak rather than long expedition tourer or something like that. As you can see, it's got a 4-hatch design. So we've got 2 round kayak spot hatches for the front and the rear compartment. We've got a smaller round kayak spot hatch here for the day hatch, and then we've got a deck hatch on here. The deck hatch compartment underneath is bolted on and sealed round, so that keeps it nice and watertight. The rest of the deck is well outfitted. We've got flecked, sort of fluorescent flecked deck lines running the full length of the boat, and plenty of bungees in all the right places. In particular, the front and the rear have got thinner bungee with a pinch release so that you can get your spare paddles, split paddles, down on the deck and tightened up. There's a mounting point at the front here for a compass, so you can fit one of those or have one fitted at the point of ordering the boat. The most significant thing about the Vortex really is the design of the hull and the rocker that goes into this boat. It's got a tremendous amount of rocker, perhaps not evident from the video, but once you're on the water and see the boat in action, you really see that rocker come into play. And if I spin the boat up onto its side, you can see we've got a very hard chined section running a significant length of the boat. The hull itself underneath is flat. We've got 2 sort of indents or rails running along the bottom here, and they're to try and provide some rigidity to that flat hull and to stop the flex going on. What all this adds up to is a boat that is incredibly manoeuvrable and also very, very stable in a sort of primary stability and secondary stability as well with this sidewall. Once you get this boat up on edge, it's a very comforting amount of stability, and when you're in those rougher conditions, very comforting for the paddler on the water. In terms of the cockpit in here, we've got a plastic seat, we've got a nice wide back band here, and very, very aggressive thigh grips here. It's something that Tiderace are well known for, which is their connectivity in the boat, and there's no exception now they've moved into the plastic side of things. We've still got all of that sort of detail going on. Inside here we've got smart track, easily adjustable footrests, nice and supportive, nice and bomb proof, very little flex or movement going on when we're pushing with the feet and playing in rougher conditions. A couple of things maybe not quite on such a positive side, but the review model that turned up here, we had some of the padding that goes underneath the thigh grips here wasn't glued in and bonded in properly, and that needs a bit of adjustment. Unfortunately, one of the footrest bolts was slightly out, and that took some work because it was slightly cross-threaded. We've also got a little bit of an issue with the way the handles at the front and the back are connected. They're using a cleat system, and when you try and pick them up, the ropes just pop out. So all of those things are very, very easy to fix. It would be nice if the boat arrived out of the wrapper with those things sorted out, and I'm sure as time goes on, feedback goes to Tiderace, that's something that's going to be sorted out. Sat inside the cockpit of this boat, it is an incredibly comfortable place to be. You can see that the front of the deck here is quite high. It sheds away to the side there. So the nice thing about that in the rougher conditions is that the water that comes up here doesn't tend to splash onto the paddler, it gets shed away. But it also means that the seating position here, you've got a slightly higher knee position, but don't think that it's narrow. It's still quite a wide sort of seated position in the boat. A little bit more akin towards the sort of white water end of things than a traditional sea boat, but it makes it incredibly comfortable, and it really helps with the connectivity inside the boat. The build quality in terms of the plastic, this single layer plastic, it is thick and it is chunky and it is very, very robust. So it's going to cope with being bounced off rocks and in the rock gardens. This boat really has been designed, according to Tiderace, for surfing, for rock gardens, and for playing very close into the shoreline. And the sort of the quality of the build is going to really support that and help that situation. It's available in a range of different colours, some quite bright, some quite funky. And inside, the other point inside here is that we've got foam bulkheads, all the sort of aspects of fitting like that. Very, very well done. We've got good sealant around it, and there's been no issue with this boat with water getting into any of the hatches. So in those terms, an absolutely outstanding boat. On the water, it handles like an absolute dream. So in summary, what are we saying? We're saying this is a high quality boat, a boat that's going to cope very well in the conditions it was designed for. It's let down by one or two minor sort of flaws or bits that need ironing out in some of the fixtures and fittings, and hopefully that will get sorted out in due course. The other thing to be aware of is that in order to be a tough boat, there's quite a bit of weight in this. It weighs in at around 28 kilograms, but that weight, the way it's distributed, is much more towards the front of the boat. And for people who are used to picking a boat up and throwing it on the shoulder, you're very quickly going to know about that because the nose wants to dip down. It is something you can manage to carry on your own for a very short distance, but if you're going on any long distance, it's going to take two of you to carry it because that just isn't a comfortable position, fighting the front wanting to drop. The alternative, of course, if you paddle on your own, is a kayak trolley, something like that. You're going to have no problems at all. Really interested to see how this goes down in the paddling community. Tiderace have an excellent reputation and have produced some superb boats, and certainly Alid, the designer there at Tiderace, all of his knowledge about what boats can do and how they handle has gone into the design of this one, and he's done a cracking job.